Not made up for giggles. This is something that actually happened and I'm not the only witness. Moved to the Sierra Nevadas for college. Before you ask who in their right mind builds a college in the middle of absolutely nowhere, altitude of 3,000, it's a very small and poor school. Arrived there with basically just a scholarship and the clothes on my back, still 17, so I had to live at the dorms. Dorms that weren't actually run by the school, but a private company, so they were more like apartments. Grimy, infested, dilapidated apartments, crammed full of students. Me and a bunch of other first-year students arrive several weeks before school starts to get comfortable with our roommates, make friends, etc. One of my roommates is involved with this story, Mexican boy, we'll call him Juan. Juan has a friend who came to this college with him. Polish guy, we'll call him Meat because he was fat. Meat is actually a really cool guy, and we go over to his dorm building regularly that summer to hang out and drink. He shares a bedroom with a gay kid I knew in high school, and the other bedroom in his dorm belongs to a kind of reclusive guy. We'll call the gay guy Freddie and the recluse Tyler. Hangouts at their place are nice, but the campus itself is gorgeous and always a huge step up from our foul rooms, so we often make plans to go out into the forest. Campus has a ton of trails that just run off of school property and deep into the woods. Lovely sights, lots of rock climbing for me and the boys, all around 10 tents locale. Meat and I go hiking and climbing out there often, but we never take one particular trail because when we tried hiking it one day it turned out to be very narrow with a massive sheer cliff drop. The kind that makes you nauseous and uneasy just being close to it. Meat invites two friends over one weekend to crash in his living room, and we all booze it up at his place for a couple nights. Good times had by all. The second night, Freddie and Meat have the genius idea to haze these two guys by taking them out into the pitch black woods. Frat boys. Chud. This sets off alarms for me already, because I'm not an idiot smooth brain and this place is ripe for /x/shenanigans. Maybe I'm too paranoid on account of practically being breastfed on image boards, but this is not the place to drunkenly dick about at night. Literally built on an Indian burial ground for starters. And another thing, the woods directly behind the dorms are too thick and slope-ridden for anyone to traverse, so they're fenced off. Despite this, I had heard strange noises out there while making nighttime runs to the laundromat. So initially I tell the guys I'm staying at the apartment, but when Fred explains that they'll be taking trails instead of dragging these poor boys into those woods next to us, I decide to tag along. At first it's a few minutes of light-hearted chatter as we make our way towards campus. Suddenly a couple others and myself stop dead. Copper and blood smell? Nope. Music. Generic house party music. Someone must be having a good time out here. We all agree to drop the whole hazing thing if we can find the source of this music and meet up with some evidently very party-friendly students. Only one problem. It seems like the music is coming from that inaccessible part of the woods. We spend a couple minutes looking for a viable way around the fence and in the direction of the party, when suddenly it all goes quiet. Then I hear it. Music, coming from up the hill. Towards the main part of campus with all the buildings. At first the others don't hear it, but once it gets a little louder they stop questioning me. Who the hell is playing music at school in the dead of night? We reason that we must have heard the reverberations of the song come off of the trees, and amble our way up the path to campus. When we crest the hill, we see that all the lights are off and nobody is in sight. Can't hear music anymore. Now we're confused, a little frustrated, and somewhat intrigued by this strange turn of events. While we're arguing about what to do next, the music picks up again. We all hear it at nearly the same time, and look in the same direction. It's coming from the library across the lake. It's still totally dark in there, but maybe they're having the big bash in the courtyard on the other side. Never underestimate the motivational power held by the prospect of free food. We all sprint around the lake, and when we reach the other side, Guess underscore what underscore it's underscore nothing dot gif. Once again, no music. At this point we're all riled up because we're distinctly hearing these songs come from specific directions, only to find nothing upon investigation. It may not sound that exasperating, but when you're experiencing it in real time it makes you feel like you're taking crazy pills. Plus we're extremely far away from where we first heard the music at this point. We couldn't have heard sounds at the library from all the way back by the dorms, the source of the music is moving. We're all pretty spooked by this concept, since none of us are drunk enough to ignore what's going on. We start cracking jokes about being in a horror movie, and collectively agree to go home. Suddenly, chaos. I start hearing the music from back by the first building. Juan hears it too. Meat hears it coming from another building in the other direction, but one of his friends says he hears it in the distance up another hill. We scatter. Some of us take off towards the sounds we hear, others are trying not to get separated. I'm hell-bent on finding whatever is causing this. I'll spare you the details, but this goes on for at least another 10 minutes, just us making a beeline for wherever we hear the song playing before it suddenly pops up somewhere else. Eventually we all reconvene. Partially because we want to stick together, but mostly because we're all hearing it come from the same general area now. I still remember this moment so fucking distinctly. We all gathered up and ran uphill towards the music, and this time I could make out what was actually playing. It was Journey. Go figure. We're all hyper and shaken from this strange midnight adventure, but that's part of what convinces us to go further and find an answer. Make our way to the back end of campus. Music appears to be coming from one of the trails that leads off into the woods. You know, now that I actually say that, I realize we really were the silliest of goofballs. The trail doesn't actually reach us, instead running all the way back up towards the dorm parking lot. We have to walk across a drainage pipe over a large drop to cross over onto it, unless we want to double back and start over from the very beginning of the trail at the lot. It's not the kind of fall that would kill you, but the kind that would still rough you up. We gingerly cross the pipe single file. Once on the trail, we quickly find ourselves devoid of moonlight, the trees hanging above leaving us in total darkness. We break out our phones and advance by flashlight into the darkness to the tune of Any Way You Want It. We hike for a while. Meat and I are up front. His friends are giggling like schoolgirls, each of them too afraid to be the guy in back who gets left behind and picked off. We all stop again when Meat and I notice something. A small wooden bridge running over a creek to our left. As unsettling as it looks in the dark, we're not bothered because of the gloom. It's because we recognize this spot. We're on our way to the cliff. Fred cracks a joke about how we were going to bring the other two out here for hazing anyway. I think he just wanted to take the edge off. Meat and I tell him that we shouldn't be bringing people out here in the dark, and that we're going home soon. The music is still playing. Clearer than ever before, not too far away and completely uninterrupted. We all know we couldn't have heard this back at the start of our trek. Doesn't matter. We continue. Our lights are pointed at our feet and we watch each step we take as the path narrows. And then we find it. At first I miss it completely and keep walking, but some of the other guys behind me hit it with their lights and we all stop. It's a cave. Not the type of rocky overhang cave with level footing you imagine when you think of a cave. It descends at a steep angle into the cliff wall to our left. Supposedly there is water down there, as the creek runs into the mountainside. But that's not the sound of water coming from in the cave. That's Journey. This is where we all draw the line. I say, well, there's our proof, guys. There's no way there are people down there. Whatever's inside, it's not a party. We have no guns. Hell, I'm pretty sure none of us brought knives. Even as a group, we were completely helpless to tangle with whatever was out here. Juan is visibly shaken. You people do whatever you want, but I'm getting the hell out of here. Who's with me? Everyone is with you, Juan. Fred and I light up the path behind us as we all return the way we came, huddled close and a lot less jovial than before. Occasional remarks akin to "wait, what was that?" plague our return, but we make it back to the lot without incident. Call it a night, play vidya, and go to sleep. Sorry for not pretty peeing, but believe me, this hasn't even started yet. The next morning, the consensus among the group is that what we experienced has no logical, natural explanation. What happened that night simply couldn't be explained by anything conventional. This really bothers me because at this point in my life I'm a staunch believer of what is widely accepted as fact. The supernatural is largely out of the question. That changes soon. A few days after Meet's friends go home, I went for an afternoon walk in the woods while reading. Wasn't paying attention to my surroundings, just wandering around while I studied for an upcoming English course. Before too long I find myself on that trail. I decide that since it's daylight and there's nothing unusual going on, I should investigate. Walk a ways down the path. Past the drainage pipe. Into the trees. Past the bridge. To the cave. Wait. MFW, there is no cave. I don't care if this sounds uncreative or you think it's total nonsense, there was no cave. I look around for the massive hole in the cliffside that myself and 6 other nearly sober men saw just a few nights ago. Pacing back and forth across this one stretch of trail for several minutes like a moron. Nothing. I go back to the dorms to break the astounding news to my colleagues. Juan wants nothing to do with it. I bring up the cave and he instantly tells me not to bother him about it. The more I press him, the more upset he gets. He's clearly terrified, so I give up on him. Go to Fred's dorm instead. Him and Meet are in the living room, Tyler is shut up in his room on the computer. Bet you forgot about Tyler. You'd be forgiven for forgetting about Tyler. But you sure as hell won't forget about Tyler again. I probably never will. Tell the other 2 about the vanishing cave. Apparently I roll a nat 20 on the persuasion check because they actually believe me. We brainstorm over burgers and decide that we're all going back there with knives, boots, and full phone batteries to look for the cave at night since it's not there during the day. The next night I meet them at their dorm for dinner. Fred and Meet have brought Tyler up to speed and convinced him to come with. We scarf down our dinner, throw back a shot, and march out onto the lot. It's not quite as late this time, but the sun has still long since set. It's about 10 p.m. when we begin our hike. And of course, as soon as we're on the trail. Music. Meet's friends were honestly the life of the party. We're a lot more serious and somber this time. I take the front while Fred keeps an eye behind, Don't Stop Believin' serenading us as we trek further in. Past the pipe. Into the trees. Past the bridge. We stop. This was a terrible idea. Meet and I look at each other. I think I see tears welling up in his eyes. I can feel hairs stand up on the back of my neck. We're all scared stiff, shooting our lights at every shadow in our periphery. We never climbed up like this before. What's the problem? I'll tell you the problem. There's no music. It's dead quiet out here. Like the noise just faded away into silence. Now shit hits the fan. Meet's phone suddenly dies from 98% battery. Lights out. Oh hell nah. We all turn around to run back. From what had to have been a mere couple meters behind us, music blasting at max volume. Instantly we're running full tilt. Freddy takes off like Usain Bolt. I was in the back but I overtake Tyler and Meet within seconds. You know that phrase they use with bears, or bulls, or whatever. I don't have to outrun it, I just have to outrun you. It's a total joke. I didn't feel any safer being ahead of those 2. Careen past the bridge. Out of the trees. Past the pipe. Thud. Turn around. Meet has completely face-planted on the trail a few yards back, cleanly illuminated by moonlight. Cliché dodge here, I don't see some unholy beast tailing us as I look behind him. Music is still loud and close, but all I see is Tyler bringing up the rear at a sprint. He runs clean past Mead. Doesn't turn in my direction. Sprints right across the pipe and out of sight. Dude, no, what the hell are you doing? Mead is no slouch, he picks himself almost instantly and is on my heels within seconds. We blast the rest of the way back, and soon we catch Freddy up on the way to the lot. Catch our breath under a streetlight. With a few students hanging around outside and no music, we feel safe enough to stand there for a while and collect our thoughts. We're all terrified, but we're not recounting events differently. We know what happened. Nobody saw anything, but what we heard was enough. Something unnatural was going on out there and it wasn't our friend. Speaking of our friend, where's Tyler? Yeah. It's one of those stories. Really wish it wasn't. I tell Freddy what happened and we all agree to wait in the lot for Tyler to get back. A couple minutes later we see him walking up the road back to us from the direction of campus. He's greeted with smiles and sighs of relief, and we all head back to their dorm. His story is the same as ours. Didn't see anything, just ran back to the parking lot from campus after he crossed the drainage pipe. And so I thought the story ended. My first and only experience with the unexplainable, forever changing my views on what is and is not plausible. That night I go home to my dorm and do my best to rest. Definitely not telling one about this. Definitely telling everyone else though. It becomes a great party story, especially after Mead and I buddy up and start frequenting the same places, since I have someone to corroborate my every detail. But unfortunately things don't stay so lighthearted. The first red flag I notice is Freddy. Less than a month after that night, he just packs his stuff and leaves the dorms for good. Paid a huge sum just to go back on his lease and everything. I saw very little of him, but once I did catch him on one of his trips to the dorm, I asked him why he was doing all this. I mean, paying all this money and moving all of his stuff into this apartment only to move it all back out 2 months later sounded stupid. He was really dodgy with me, barely spoke at all. Just said that it was what he needed to do and kept packing. I'd still frequent Meat's place after that, and even started crashing on Fred's old bed once Juan proved to be a terrible roommate. Barely ever saw Tyler. Pretty sure I can count on one hand the number of times I spotted him. And I probably only need about 2 hands to count the number of words he spoke total. I focused on my studies mostly, so I wasn't really aware of what was going on with the others. When our first semester ended, I moved out of my old dorm and in with Meat and Tyler. Coming back from vacation, I found the place to be a total pigsty. Meat didn't get back until a few days after I did, but from what I could tell, Tyler never left. That's not unusual though, some students stayed in the dorms. I just noted it at the time because his parents were only a couple hours away by car. Speaking of his parents, I met them a couple months after moving. Mom and Dad are still together. Nice people, were very polite with me. When they came to visit they talked to Tyler in his room for a while. I didn't snoop for obvious reasons. With the benefit of hindsight I think they were concerned about him. He smelled really bad. Not macabre and blood, but I'm pretty certain he just never washed. He had also stopped attending his classes, so it makes sense that they were getting nervous. He was going full need. By the time his mom and dad made this visit, I was already weirded out by him. Imagine having a roommate that never makes any noise, never interacts with you, never eats or cleans or showers or craps. And you only see him maybe once a week. Every time I try to make conversation with him he gives me a response that sounds like Siri attempting small talk. Just so devastatingly awkward that I don't even know how to reply. So Meat and I continue with our routines, and between the gym, our classes, and various house parties, him and I stay pretty occupied and Tyler has the dorm largely to himself. We both make jokes about how unusually he behaves. One day we do a potluck with our neighbors. The apartment next door is a girls' dorm. 2 fatties and 2 8/10s. We had been hanging out with them periodically and they were pretty nice to us, so when they offered to do a potluck with us, Meat and I actually put some effort into whipping up some good food. At one point in the planning stage, one of them mentions to Meat that we should bring Tyler. I did not find this out until the day of. It was a good time, but Tyler acted so bizarrely that even our neighbors were talking about it. Never brought any food. Wolfed down 2 plates of food before most of us had even touched ours. Walks out the door within 30 minutes of arriving without saying anything to anyone, presumably back to his bedroom. Before he bailed, we took a group picture on one of the girls' Polaroid. We're all sat around the table and giving the camera our best smile. Except Tyler, of course. I don't remember whose camera it was, but I'm still on good terms with one of the girls, so I'll ask her if she has it. Fingers crossed she does, and I can post a picture of the Polaroid for you guys. We gossip about Tyler being impressively rude for a little, but mostly just want to enjoy the potluck that night. Afterwards I have a quick chat with Meat in the lot and we agree not to bring Tyler anywhere anymore. At this point I'm still writing him off as a brainlet. It's not easy to convince yourself something supernatural is going on when these events are spaced out by several months. One night I'm telling my too spooky story at a house party to a few people, including a guy named David. I'm fine with using his real name because he's not closely tied to the story, and we would later become good friends. David isn't a student, but he throws great parties, and he knows a lot about my college since nearly everyone that frequents his place goes there. He brings up Native American lore regarding cryptids in our area, says there are supposedly creatures that lure you to your death using near-perfect imitation, and that there must be one in our woods that has listened to plenty of party music. Of course I know what he's talking about, so I get to chatting with him about skinwalkers, and with his help I tell the Anansi Goatman story to a small crowd of buzzed college kids. It was lots of fun, but when Meat heard what we were talking about he apparently started thinking a little too hard. After driving me home, he says we need to have a talk. We get into our apartment. Meat says to check on Tyler and see if he's awake. I open the door to his room. He's not even here. All I see is copious amounts of garbage piled up on his floor. Room smells like a trash can, so I close the door. Tell Meat he's not home. We both take a seat in the living room, and Meat starts talking. That stuff you were talking about tonight kinda reminds me of Tyler. His tone is somewhat humorous, but I can feel us both tensing up. I ask him what he means. The stuff you and David were telling stories about. You know how it pretended to be someone it had killed, and it acted all unnerving, and smelled really bad. Oh yeah, those things are crazy sounding, aren't they? Why am I avoiding saying the word? Yeah, I mean, just saying. What if our roommate's been replaced with, like, one of those? Laughs. Why is he avoiding saying the word? You think Tyler is a, haha dash. Skinwalker. Roughly 7 or 8 seconds of silence. The front doorknob starts turning. Meat and I both scream and jump back from the entryway. Like not 5-year-old girl screams, but still grown-ass men screaming over a doorknob. Tyler walks in, both of us wide-eyeing him as he stops in the doorway. What? I'll go on the record saying that what I did here was probably my one big mistake. I could have been spared a lot of trouble if I just shut my mouth. After a couple seconds of standing there sizing up Tyler, Meat, and I both relax and start laughing a little. We were talking about that scary shiz we saw in the woods way back when we were moving in, you know? We were thinking maybe it was this Native American legend, a skinwalker. They can pretend to be people, so we were joking about it pretending to be you, and then boom, you walk through the door. Scared the hell out of us. Meat and I are laughing pretty heartily now. At the time I just felt like we were being idiots, and coming clean was the best way to defuse the situation. It was not. Tyler just gives us a little chuckle and goes to his bedroom. Meat and I continue to joke about it that night as we head to bed. I can't sleep. Too nervous, keep thinking about how much sense the skinwalker theory makes. Lock the bedroom door and window. Stay up for a few hours on my phone until exhaustion wins. Days pass. Never see Tyler. Don't want to. Never peer around the back end of the apartment to his bedroom because I have zero interest in seeing anything I'm not currently seeing. Rarely spend time in the dorm when I'm not asleep. Keep locking up every night. One night I'm dozing off and I hear someone try and open my door. Locked, of course. Then, knocking, and Tyler saying, "Hey, are you in there?" Not sure who he's addressing, but Meat is fast asleep and snoring. Grab my knife. Yes. "Hey, can I have your help with dash?" I honest to God don't remember what he asked for help with, only that I didn't believe him for a second. "No, it's late, I'm going to bed." Complete nonsense, I'm not sleeping tonight. Hear him walk back to his room. A couple more days pass. I'm always on edge and I never sleep soundly. 9 days after the first attempt, Tyler tries to open my door at nearly 2 in the morning. "What do you want?" MFW. He doesn't even say anything and just walks away. MFW. I have no face. Another sleepless night. Decide to tell Meat when he wakes up that Tyler keeps trying to get into our room at night. We're both on the same page at this point. But neither of us want to confront him. We don't really have anything to demand of him that warrants a serious confrontation, and we're both a little unnerved at the thought of telling him we're spooked by his behavior. I let my landlord know I need to move to a different building. Meat starts talking to his parents about living with them for the rest of the school year. Waiting is the worst part. Landlord says in 5 weeks they can have a room available for me a few buildings down. 5 weeks of no sleep, full Jordan Peterson mode. Every night I lock up and get about 3 hours of sleep once exhaustion beats out my paranoia. Except on the nights he tries opening my door. Then I don't sleep. Grades stagger when I start finding it harder to study with a fried brain. Start sleeping on campus. Get kicked out of library for sleeping past closing hour. Can't sleep outside at night, can't sleep indoors at night. Go nocturnal against my own will, start chronically missing classes. Grades get worse. Consider asking friends for a place to crash, but nobody in this town has known me for more than a few months. Longest 5 weeks of my life. The last 2 weeks were even worse because Meat had convinced his mom to let him move in for a while. A couple nights each week Tyler would run the same routine. Try my doorknob. What do you want? Turn 180 and walk away. A couple nights before I was set to move, I had most everything in bags and boxes. Even my bed was stripped, and I was just sleeping on a mattress with a cheap topper. Midnight comes and goes, and once again he's at my door trying to get in. Grow a pair and actually confront him. Why the fuck are you always trying to get in here? Hear him walk back to his room. Now I'm also pissed. Wait till sun comes up. Knock on his door. Keep knocking until he comes out. Why do you keep trying to get into my room? That shit is disturbing. He just stares. You're being goddamn weird. Stop trying to get into my room. He closes the door. Don't see him for the rest of the day. Still tries my door that night. Tell him to go away. He doesn't. Yell at him, "Hey. Cut it out." Bastard yells back. No words, just yells. Doesn't go on long, but it's enough to convince me he's completely nuts. For what it's worth, throughout all of this he never tries more than once per night to my knowledge. I almost wonder if he's a sleepwalker. I pack my stuff and change buildings. Just want to get a proper night's sleep for once. Rest of the year goes fine, new dorm is full of spiders, but I'll take that over demented roommates any day. Never encounter Tyler at all. Basically put the whole thing behind me and forget about it. Leave for the summer, come back to the mountains that fall to finish my degree. Things go good for months until chickenpox hits and campus shuts down. Also landlord starts running cover for meth dealers. Start realizing I hate the place, so I decide to move a few hours north closer to civilization with my GF. Made the move back in April 2020. Haven't seen Tyler since the end of winter 2019. Here's why I posted yesterday. Last week, YouTuber announces scary story compilation, so I was racking my brain for all the details about that strange night out in the woods. Decided to try and look up my old roommates. Spent an hour or two each day just casually combing for info. Didn't get anything at first. Yesterday, I tried Tyler's last name and the county he's from. Got something. His mother. Found her on the missing persons search. I never knew her first name, but I recognized Tyler's last name and her face. It was a little disturbing at first, but I've gotten a good night's rest and I'm feeling fine now. Kind of messed up to think that, maybe, something got her son, and now apparently her. Maybe he's just a recluse and something tragic happened to her, but I still don't have an explanation for what we encountered out in those woods. Sorry if this was anticlimactic, never had some /K/style shootout with a screaming goat man, just really convinced that something fucked up happened to a guy I met. Who knows?